Hey y'all, I'm Mike, the RV inspector and technician.
And I'm Elizabeth. I'm the wife of the RV inspector and technician.
And welcome to our podcast. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, Mike.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cozy Camper podcast. We would love it if you would just take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Then share if you want to, too. It's all helpful. Elizabeth, it's been 2 weeks since we sat here together. We met with the Traveling Titans, who are not named Titan.
We did meet them and learn that tidbit.
We did. I didn't. They were in my phone as the Titans.
Yes, I assumed it was
But that was a lot of fun.
their last name.
It is not. And actually, as I think about it, we never did learn their actual last name.
Well, I wanted to ask, but I was afraid to ask on the podcast, and
Titans, what's your real last name? No, well, so it's us again.
Yeah.
And
feels good to be back in our calm, quiet kitchen.
It was very overwhelming. We filmed
Yes.
it outside at an active campground.
Which was cool,
It was awesome.
like a cool vibe, but then people came.
And they were intoxicated.
And children came, and they came again, and they just kept coming, and it was...
I thought that, like, the sight of 4 people with a camera and broadcast headsets would have been like, oh, hey, those guys are, like, doing something. Maybe we should, like, give them some space.
Yeah.
They sat right next to us and dribbled a basketball and had drunken conversation.
The one guy stood in the back
Yeah.
for, 30 seconds? Or, what felt like an eternity? He just stood there.
Yeah, he just stood there, like, looking. We called him Drunk Dennis. Drunk Dennis stood there like...
So annoying.
Like a deer in headlights. And, okay, it was annoying, but we also were doing a socially unusual thing by filming a podcast in the middle of a patio, which, unbeknownst to us, was having a concert that night.
Yeah, so, I was on the one side of the table where I could see the stage behind you guys.
Yeah.
And, I guess you were next to me, but you were in the zone. You were
Right.
really into it. And I was like, I see him, doing a mic check, and I could see him staring at us, and I was like, oh, God.
So what's funny is...
They're going to just start playing, and then we're going to have to be done.
And as soon as we packed up, they started
Instantly.
playing.
I think they were trying really hard. They kept walking by and picking up their guitars and putting them down, and I think they were trying really hard to be respectful.
Yeah, we learned a little bit from this. Number one,
yes,
recording on site, hanging out with the Titans was great. I had a great time doing it. The lesson here is that we need to have as much control over the environment as possible, and make sure if we're going to do it outside, make sure that it's a controlled area.
Yes.
So if we had done the same thing in front of their campsite, probably would have been fine.
Right. You would have maybe heard noise in the background, but it wouldn't have been aggressive.
Yeah, we still
as it was
We still would have heard the train.
Yeah.
And
yes. I didn't even think about the train.
It was a Union Pacific train.
And a BNSF.
There was a BNSF train. Our son's really into trains, but that was tough. So
yes.
To the fewer listeners we had last time, I think because of those audio issues, and then it took me days to upload the podcast onto YouTube, literally 3 days. To everyone that stuck that one out, thank you.
Yeah, that one was a lot. And I feel almost we need to have the Titans again, a round 2, because I loved talking with them so much, and I loved listening to them, and I just wanted more. But because I was so distracted and because it was so loud, it felt like we couldn't go as deep as we wanted.
My ADHD was fully based. And what's great is that, so everybody knows, our kids, the Titans kids, were present downrange from us.
Yeah, so I could see them occasionally. So you can see me on the camera being
Yep.
And what are they doing?
Literally, you and Blake went into, it was Sam and I were locked in. You and Blake went into hypervigilance mode.
It's true.
At one point, one of their kids was running and you just see Blake
and then you could see me going the other way because we're on opposite sides of the table.
And then, but then frequently, you're watching our kids
what is happening?
So it made it challenging to edit some of that stuff out.
To be fair, I was also worried because the train was right there. I mean, you could hear it, but and there was no, you in the campground, the train tracks run in the campground. So in the back of my head, my anxiety was Nolan's going to go up there. Nolan's going to go up to the train track.
It is right there.
It's right there.
There's no barrier.
Well, I know Nolan knows better. If anyone knows better about trains and safety, it's Nolan. But I was still in the back of my head oh, God, he's left alone. He loves trains, and it's right there. He's and these other kids might go. And I was trying to be present and focused, but also I was like, oh God, this is it.
So, learning occurred.
A lot of learning occurred.
Tomaz Coast to Coast, they're our next guests.
Yes.
We're trying to figure out our schedule, talk to them when we've already worked out some of these logistics.
Yes, we knew going in now we know going in now what we need to have.
Yes.
Namely, just a quiet spot. I think if we took anything from this first one, just a quiet spot.
Yeah, reasonably private, quiet spot, even if it's outdoors.
Yeah.
I
liked being outdoors. I think I said that in the podcast. I liked, or maybe before it was like, that's what we're trying to do here is just have a casual conversation and just be where the people are. And in this case, they're on an awesome campground at a really cool location. And
right.
I think in theory, it would have been great to be where we were at. Just not.
In practice,
yeah, it didn't
was
really
not
work
the
out.
best.
So I don't regret doing it. I think it was really cool. It's what we're aiming for. It
Right.
just didn't
It did not.
pan out the way we had hoped.
Operationally, it did not go the way we hoped, but we achieved our objective in that we recorded a podcast with them.
the Titans, yeah.
And one of the things we talked about was just making incremental progress on each.
We need to remember that.
Right. So we did, so we did the hard thing, and now
Yes.
we've learned from it. The Titans were our guinea pigs, and
Thank you, Titans.
Yeah, and Tomaz's will benefit from that because
Yeah.
that podcast will be a little better than the one we did the first time.
And I think we talked about this about having the Titans on again in like a year from now see
Every-
how far we've come.
They were number 3, so we said every integer of 3.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
They'll be
So
like
that we can
33, right?
compare.
Exactly. 300. We just have them. They're
Yeah.
our number 3 special. But that was.
300. Oh my God.
Oh my
I don't
God.
know if I'm gonna make it that far.
I don't know. Just getting this ready tonight was a battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. I was tired tonight. We keep not doing it on Sunday, which is what we said because it's a day off. And then like tonight, I worked in the field and then we had a showing, and I was gassed. But you have to do the hard thing.
We
We do
do.
the hard thing now, so that tomorrow I can edit this after we get back
Yes.
from an inspection. But I wanted to. We have to discuss. We have a lot of RV business owners aspiring RV business owners or current business owners that watch. We like to do the high and low points of really the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I guess Elizabeth, what were the high and low points for you over the last couple of weeks?
Well, the high was going camping. We went to an RV resort not too far from here that was beautiful, and we took our son and we took our niece, and it was lovely. I really liked that. I feel like that was a nice taste of camper life again.
Yeah.
But as we talked about with the Titans, the resort is always really nice.
I love the resort.
That was probably the
And
high.
that's like, you might think like, hey, like we're talking about business. Taking time off for yourself
Yes.
is as important as anything else is if you're trying to run your own business.
Right.
Because it's easy to have your identity be assumed
Yes.
or assimilated, like the Borg, into the business. So it's like, all right, we needed a couple days to like shut down.
Yeah, and we still did a little work while we were there. Like you edited, I
did do
believe, the
some
Titans
editing.
podcast
I
and
did, yeah.
took some phone calls.
Thank goodness for Starlink that I was able to still get that stuff done.
Yeah, that's true. I get 2 highs because it was 2 weeks.
Yeah, do it.
My second high would be that the week picked up, and we, like, I think on Monday we booked 4 inspections for this week. So that felt good.
It did. And why did that feel good? I suspect that's your next low.
My low, well, I have 2 lows. I have a few lows. It was a rough little stretch there for me. I don't want to lie or sugarcoat it. But the week after the 4th of July was so slow.
Dead
dead.
as a doornail.
And we had some things like that we scheduled prior to the 4th, like way back at the beginning of summer, right? You had a couple repairs, but nothing much. And you and I both struggle with that. It's okay to be slow. We give each other pep talks, right? Like, this is good. Let's just be present and enjoy it because next week or the week after you'll be busy again and we won't have time together. And let's just sit with it. And then by Wednesday, we're like, oh God, this is it. The business is ending.
We're
What are we
done.
going to do? It's over.
We're
doing budget talks or like,
Yeah.
which is all good. We talked about how that was a good thing.
It is good.
It forces your hand, but also like here we are again, back to being busy.
Right, we're slammed
And we
this
knew it
week.
would be like this, but when you're in it, you're like, oh God, what's happening?
Right. And we said we actually looked at the data from this time last year and found that we experienced to the day,
Yeah.
the exact same slowdown.
Right.
And then we looked at it and we were like, oh, it's going to pick up on this day. And as
Sure enough, yeah.
as the day is long,
It did.
it came right back.
Yeah.
Right.
And you had more validation today. You went to an inspector breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of my highs is that I got to meet with effectively what are rival RV inspectors, but they're also like our only sort of colleagues, right? They're co-workers effectively, and there's enough business for everybody really. But it was great to get with some other professionals in this space and just chat about like things they encountered and what business has been like. And they all of them were like, because that was my thing. I was like, did something happen? Like, did I get blacklisted the week after 4th of July? And we come to find they were all dead.
Yeah.
All of them were dead. There was no business like that week after the 4th of July. And even academically understanding that, we saw the data, right? We knew it was going to come back. And it still stressed me out.
Yeah.
It was very stressful.
Well, you go from being like boom, 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 like nonstop to just literally nothing. I mean, except for, like I said, just a couple of repairs. No inspections that week.
Right.
Nothing.
That was
that was just weird. Yeah.
That was the first time we haven't had an inspection on a week in I don't know how long.
Yeah. And I do want to praise this. I think more you than me. I'm pretty good about.
Praise me as much as you want.
I'm pretty good about like relaxing and, well, that's a lie. I'm not good at relaxing, but I feel like you did a really good job of being present as much as you could. I could see it on your face, and some moments were harder than others throughout the week, but I think you did a really good job of, we did some fun things that week and we made the best of it.
Because it was over the holidays last year. That was like our first like prolonged slower period. And we made the agreement then. We're like, hey, the next time we encounter a slow period, we're going to lean into it and enjoy the time.
And we did try, and I do think you did a good job.
It's hard though.
It's very hard.
The business roller coaster comes and goes, and it's easy to like, you know, at the RV inspector breakfast, the other inspectors are like, "How do you do what you do? Like you're posting content every day, and like you know." And we have a closed Facebook group, and we talk like you share your stats.
Exclusive.
It is exclusive. I don't even tell you about it.
I'm not even in it.
But yeah, you're not welcome. But like we talk about like what we're doing and stuff, and they're like, you know, you're so busy, and then you make all this content. It's like that's not easy, and you know, you might look at me or us, and then be like, oh my God, those guys are so busy. Like we're still a small business. Like we have a great presentation, but at the end of the day, really, I'm a sole practitioner. We have some people that we work with, but it's really we're at the phase of the business where it's just us and really like me alone in the field. Like you do a great job here in the office, but and you because of your force multiplier, we do better. But
it's
you're
still
not
just
actively you know, there's no billable hours for what
for
you're doing.
sure.
And because you're in that phase where like if I'm not working, you know, our family's not making money, that's stressful. And we do have those periods.
Also, our house hasn't sold, and that like it's all kind of feeding into it. And while we're okay, and we rationally realize we're okay,
right?
Just the unknown is stressful.
So that is. I agree with you. That was the low point for the week, for these last weeks for me.
That wasn't my low. I have a low.
Oh, you do have another.
I do have another low, and we knew it as soon as it happened that it would be the low. I sent you quite a ways up to Temple, Texas.
You did.
Which is what would you say, 90?
Yeah, it's about 90 miles away.
90 miles, 90 minutes away. Not a close drive, and I left out some pertinent information.
Absolutely mission critical information.
I forgot to tell the seller that it was a 6 to 8 hour process. So he understandably was like, well, I have to go to work. And you were like, understandably, well, then we can't do this today because it takes 6 to 8 hours.
Right. Either you give me the keys and trust me, or we reschedule this for another day. Now,
to my defense, or in my defense, it turns out that there was some other miscommunications along the way with other parties.
It's not our fault.
I should have.
Well, what you just described, we have to own that. But the other part,
I definitely should have called. So I called the seller, left a message. That seller then texted me, and I responded via text. But then because it was a text, I didn't think to say my usual spiel about 6 to 8 hours. So I left that part out. So my lesson though learned was like I will always call the seller and I will not text with the seller. Like even if the seller texts me, I'm
Right.
going to return a call.
Yeah, you have to.
Like we have to talk and have a conversation because that's how things go.
And if you are in an RV business or any business, calls are physically talking to someone is always better than. And I learned that lesson a while ago, right?
I'm learning that.
I
lesson.
got bit before you came on board. I got bit by the same thing. And I think many people that are in sales in any industry, because it's like it's easy just to like, oh, you get a text, whatever. I'm not even gonna read it, right? Like, okay, just hit them with the K, right?
Yeah.
Even when we send checklists and because we send checklists, we send emails, but like it's good to get someone on the phone and just ask them, hey, this is what we need. Do you understand this?
Yes.
And then, and how did I describe it to you? I compared it to when I was a police training officer.
You said it was like being in the third stage or
Right,
the
because
third phase.
Because in the first phase, we have to teach you everything. The second phase, we kind of let you go off on your own, but I'm still your training wheels to help you. The third phase, we allow you to fail forward so that you feel the magnitude of your mistakes.
Oh, I felt it.
Yes.
I definitely felt it. I know I messed up, and I'm grateful that it wasn't just on me, but I still messed up, and it's a crappy feeling no matter what. And so I'm mostly worked through it. I still don't feel great about it,
Right.
but it also is what it is. And we rescheduled the inspection. It's fine.
I've got to work on Sunday now.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It worked out. Thankfully, you were able to use your police negotiating or whatever you call it.
Jedi mind trick.
Yeah, where you were able to calm both parties down. The tensions were high. You calmed me down. A little emotional.
A little de-escalation, verbal judo.
Yeah, and it worked out. But
So,
I
yeah,
didn't like it. It wasn't
no.
a great feeling.
No, but that's the thing. Okay, and then, but like, again, as a business, like, you're going to have some failures. Like, success is not linear. This is not the last failure we'll ever have. You came out of that, right? So you had your emotions.
I had my feelings.
You had your feelings. That's great. But you've come out of it now, and like I see the change.
Yes.
Right. Like you came out of it, and you're like, you've seized it now. Where, like before, maybe I was kind of asking you like, hey, did this get done? Did that get done? And then the answer is typically yes. But now you're like, hey, I did this. It's done. Right. And like I see that the change has occurred, and that's because you're new in this space, and you pointed out like I've been doing this for a few years. You're new to this space, and you learned, and that I think it's hard for a lot of business owners. They think success is this linear path, and it's not. There's ups and downs, and sometimes you're just gonna shit the bed, and all you can do is be ready to wash the sheets, man. Like
You're gonna get us that E next to our
I'll
podcast.
beep it out. It's fine. I've got the buttons right. But yeah, I think that's
Also, I think it needs to be talked about the balance, like, and you even mentioned it when we were decompressing and you were helping me work through it. Like I'm working for the business and supporting the business in you, but I'm also home with our son and trying to sell our house. So I'm making sure it's ready for showings, and I'm doing all the things that just.
took the car to the mechanic, right? You're doing all these.
I'm just
other
doing
things.
all the things while also trying to focus, and so sometimes my brain struggles. It's not because I don't know what I'm doing, but because my brain's not fully on that task. So I feel like you'll ask me like, hey, did you talk to this person? And it's not on the front of my brain. I did talk to that person, and I obviously know what I talked about. I just need a minute to be like, wait a minute, hold on. Jessica, like, yes, I talked to Jessica about this. Yes. And so what did we come up with? We came up with a little plan.
Yeah, we did. So we said that every day when I get home from whatever field work I'm doing, as soon as I walk in the door, we're just going to take.
Well,
it doesn't always work out, but
yeah.
as soon as it's practicable, because our son is the Tasmanian devil right now. But as soon as it's practicable, when I get home, we're going to just take 10 minutes and, after action the day, and just be like, all right, where are we at on this? What's going on with that? This part come in.
Because then it is a little more on the front of my brain.
Right.
Whereas when you randomly when you work together, when we run, like the business is such a huge part of our life, there's not a clear separation.
Right.
So I could be like cooking dinner and feeding our son and taking care of the dogs, and then you'll be like, hey, did you make this phone call? And if we do it that way, my brain's not thinking about the business. I'm like in the personal side of things. So like I like this new plan because then it focuses my attention on the business, on what we need to talk about. where it is more like
Right. And
readily available.
And we talked about how like kind of your half of the business is like, to use another cop analogy, right? Is your blanket getting in the way? Elizabeth has on a blanket for those that are listening because she's
cozy camper.
We are cozy. She's fully emerged from the blanket now. No, but we talked about how like kind of your role is just by its nature a little bit more like a first responder kind of attitude, right? I mean, you're sitting here wearing a headset. You're like a dispatcher, right? But
less
like,
critical, but
like
yeah.
you're like living your life. You're doing with whatever with Noel, and the phone rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's a customer complaint, or maybe it's a new customer, and you have to like stop, hang on. Let me get into this gear, right? And like when I called you, it was before kind of business hours started, and I called you and I'm like, oh, dude, this is all jacked up, and like you're probably like having coffee, hanging out with our son.
I was still in bed.
Right.
Actually, it was very early, and I was not fully awake, and
that must be wonderful. You're so welcome for my service.
I appreciate you. But also, once my day starts, it doesn't stop. So I like to prolong the bed part. Being awake in the bed as long as I possibly can, because once I'm up, it's over.
You like to be horizontal.
I do like to be horizontal. So does our son.
He does like to be horizontal. It works out.
But we worked through it. We came up with a strategy. It was a lot. It was overwhelming, but it worked out.
But did learning occur?
Learning
did occur for all of us.
Thank you, Officer Murphy. Appreciate your service.
You're welcome. I'm no longer an officer for those.
I don't know.
Listening.
You told me when we first started dating that you were always an officer. You said it never shuts off.
Yeah, that's some
you told me it never goes away. And
that's some D-bag rookie thing. I mean, you met me and I was still in the academy. You didn't meet me, but we started dating when I was still in the academy.
We had a lot of fights in those early days because we'd be at a restaurant and you'd be like, oh, like, this isn't safe, and then you'd be like, but turn it off, and you'd be like, I can't turn it off.
Yeah, no, I can totally turn it off.
I
turn it off. I used to.
Can you though? Because you're training me as an FTO.
Well, I'm just saying these are valid adult learning techniques. It's okay, but like if this were actually, I had a trainee once, and they were telling me their whole life story while we were driving around in the car. And I'm like, hey, do you think we should like maybe go out and do something about those two guys that are fighting over there? And they're like, what? And it's like, it's a different. Yeah. And then afterwards we were able to debrief and be like, hey, listen, like I'm a chatty Cathy too. I want to talk to you, but we do have to be aware of what was going on. In that case, two homeless people were fighting, and I thought maybe we should stop the one from beating the other one. But adults. I have some background in educating adults.
I hear you, and I appreciate it. It hurts in the moment, not because you're training me, but because I want to be good enough. I want to be like strong enough. I want to be smart enough. All the things you want to be as a person.
And I'll tell you right now.
And so I don't mind you training me, but my emotions are still very like.
Well, and that's what I was going to say.
Raw
is that training your wife or your spouse.
Oh, I don't like that phrase.
Yeah, it's
feeling a little triggered as we sit here.
As well you should, right? Because that is like the most. It's just counterintuitive and it's difficult to do because like if I screw up and you come to me and you're like, hey, you screwed up, scrotum.
Oh God, Mike, hit the button.
No. We found out we have buttons. So we. But that's like, it's a really challenging thing to do because are you talking to your coworker or are you talking to your spouse?
Right.
And you're kind of talking to both, right? And so we made the joke, like, we came home and I gave you a big hug and I told you that I loved you. And I was like, I never had to hug any of the trainees.
You did say that. And then I didn't know how to feel about it because I was like,
Sometimes my jokes don't land.
Because I was like.
And that was one of the jokes that didn't land.
I mean, I knew what you meant, but I also feel like we're supposed to be equals in this. And so then I was like, well, wait, am I below him? Like, I'm like, is he my boss? No, that's not how it works. But then I think about it and I process and I'm like, no, he just means I'm learning from him.
Well, like if you actually looked at the org chart, you would see that I am your boss.
I'm the one that's going to be carrying the benefits though soon, not you.
That's true.
So.
Because I'm the boss and I have my golden parachute.
My God,
so that if anything goes wrong, I can, I'll just land on my golden parachute. It'll be fine.
Anyway, a lot of learning occurred.
It did
on both ends.
Yeah, I'm gonna get beat to death. So,
true.
Please in the comments ask for periodic photos of me with that day's newspaper for proof of life.
I'll be sure to post them.
Yeah, it's clearly photoshopped. Like bruises on my face. No, that was for me. So yeah, it was challenging, but also like. You've experienced like some rapid growth because of that. Like
it's true.
You came out on the other side.
It lit a fire under me, if you will, to make sure.
And I think And I told you that I went through the same kind of phase where I had been an employee forever, and now I'm a business owner, and like you're trying to figure out that balance.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do. So we like to have these because you're learning from the benefit of our experience, right? Because there's in this industry there are a lot of husband-wife teams, particularly among RV inspectors. A lot of times they're both inspectors, and it's like that's got to be challenging sometimes, and that's okay because it's probably challenging. And then let me actually double down on that. I would call any husband-wife team that was like, nah, it's not challenging. I would call them a liar. There's no way that you can be without challenge. I don't know. And didn't even Bill and Melinda Gates get divorced, right?
I mean, they sure did.
So it's challenging for everybody.
Did she work for him?
Well, they had the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I still think they still do. I don't know. I don't want to talk about those guys.
Yeah.
But all that to say,
I hear you. It's difficult, and it takes work, and it takes effort, and I think just like everything in our lives, we're doing our best to be honest about it and open about it. We try not to sugarcoat a lot of things.
Right.
And this is one of them. This is a big part of our lives.
Yeah, it's challenging. Like we're talking as something that was shaken out by this whole thing is like we're talking about our finances. So, we go through and it's like, all right, we can trim some stuff out. Everybody's had the budget conversation where you're like, oh, do I really need Netflix? Do I need HBO Max?
Do you need the YouTube thing where you don't get ads or commercials?
That's
only on your phone?
I would argue that I do need those things, but
I was just mad that it was only on your phone. If you're going to pay for this service, at least put it on all of the devices in the house.
I probably could have done that.
You could have done that.
We've canceled it now.
But I'm a little bitter, that you got so long without ads, and I've been here like a peasant watching commercials.
Sorry, dear. It's gone now. But
see, look at all these conversations.
But exactly, and that's the point I was trying to make is, we had to have that conversation, and then we're like, all right, well, we know December and January are our slowest months. So how are we going to get through December and January? Like, how do we want to tackle that? And those are conversations that you have to have now, even though we can't really predict it. Because if our house sells, we have one plan, and if it doesn't, we have a different plan.
And then we have a third just...
Right, yeah, I'm going to start an OnlyFans. It's actually an opposite OnlyFans, though, where people pay to keep my clothes on. And if they stop paying, they come off. But yeah, so I thought, even though that was a low point, a lot of good came out of it.
Yes.
So I don't want to have low points just to be sad. It's like, hey, we had this low point. And then here's what we did to at least learn, even if you can't fix it, we at least learned something from it.
Yes.
And I think that's huge.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, I feel better talking about that.
It was very therapeutic.
That was nice, right? Well, that's the end of our show, guys. No, we wanted to. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Are you
cool.
good?
I'm feeling great, honey. We wanted to take a second and talk about as we've been talking about broadly about having a business, we wanted to talk about specifically our business. And it's like, hey, like a lot of our followers are vaguely hey, he does something with RVs. I don't really know for sure what it is. Like even my dad a couple weeks ago was like, hey, what is an inspection?
What do you do?
Like what's an inspection? You talk all the time. So this one's for him where we're gonna tease that out, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the weaknesses and obviously the strengths of this industry. But first, we didn't know what an RV inspection was 4 years ago. We'd never heard of it. We didn't know what it was. And the RV inspection as a thing is 10 years old. The most experienced RV inspectors have been doing this for 8 or 10 years. They used to teach it out of a trailer, and things have changed. And now it is emerging as a whole niche within the RV industry. And I think we're probably among the first sort of independent
to take it and run with
right,
it.
And pick it up. And not that there haven't been inspectors before. There's certainly some very successful ones, but we're on a podcast right now talking about it, right? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and what it is and really what it isn't. And because I think what surprises people when we talk about RV inspections is I think they think it's more like if you hire a mechanic to go out and look at a car before you buy it. And yes, there's certainly a component of that, but it's really more like a home inspector.
Right.
That's coming out and evaluate. We actually even use the same software. that the home inspectors do. And we go out to an RV at a dealership or a private seller, and we evaluate the coach on the client's behalf from top to bottom. It takes like 8 hours. And this is a little sidebar. We were talking earlier about we have all the different social media channels, and they all are a little different. So we have like Instagram, which is like typically pretty supportive people, and Facebook is kind of angry people. YouTube, we're so new to, I don't really have, but it seems like it's really hard to get traction on YouTube.
It takes a while.
Yes, and that's like,
Slow,
hey,
very like slow, and
we got our
yeah.
50 listeners last time. Sweet
Woo.
deal, right? And then TikTok is, if you're a TikToker, I'm sorry, but TikTok is a dumpster
It's just a
fire.
beast of its own. Like,
And yeah, and like people come into the comments and they're like, "Oh, that took 6 or 8 hours, blah blah blah." You're
but also you got like a ridiculous amount of viewers and like
847,000 on one single video.
and just like it was just like so bizarre.
On a
so
low
like,
effort video.
While it comes with all those comments and the
Yes.
random things you're dealing with, it also like took off instantly, like within like an hour.
Right. But
So.
it's like, yeah, we're new to TikTok as well. And we've been putting all of our eggs in the Facebook and Instagram basket. But anyway, all that to say that the comments about the RV inspection on TikTok have been particularly hateful. And it was like, how do you justify this taking like 6 to 8 hours? And it's like, because if we're going to use the home inspector example, like we had a great home inspector, right, who came out 3 times.
Yeah.
And, he found things every time that he came out. And the RV inspector, people are like, well, it does cost more than the home inspection does. But not if you think about like we had him out 3 times.
Right.
Right. And that is about what a home inspection or an RV inspection costs. And also in the RV inspection, so we're going to evaluate the whole roof, all the sealant. We're going to evaluate all the sidewalls, all the sealant there, the tires on the ground, the axles, all the running gears. The walls move.
Yeah.
It has a motor. It has different electrical it has 2 or 3 different electrical systems. It has multiple water systems.
Propane.
It has
like
propane,
gas,
right?
like a deadly gas.
Right,
Yeah.
and it has inverters and converters, and you have to test them both. And so all of that, then you have to go on the inside, and unlike a home inspection, you have to test the TVs to make sure they get like channels. You have to make sure the
Really?
speaker, yes.
I didn't know that.
You have to make sure the TV, like they get channels and the radio speakers work, and you have to evaluate the condition of the recliners. Like,
So you get to sit in the recliners and test them out?
actually, what I do, you're gonna laugh. So I had an inspection where I tested the TV, which was on a televator. Which, if you don't know what a televator is, it's like a machine that causes the TV to hide behind a wall, and then it comes up. And I tested the TV and I tested the recliner, and then the client called me after they bought it, and they were like, "You did not test the TV." And I was like, "Yes, I did. Here's my photos." He's like, "I cannot get it to work." And he was still here, so I drove to go test it out. And he handed me the remote. I turned the TV on. There was no problem. And then he said, "Yeah, but look." And he sat in the recliner, and he could not turn the TV on because the televator did not raise high enough for the receiver to be visible. So now I sit in the recliner with the TV
test
remote
it.
to test it.
Oh my God.
And if I can't control the TV from the recliner, I write it up in the report.
Oh my
so
God.
that they can raise the TV on the televator like a half inch to make it work.
awesome.
That is the level of detail that goes into this.
And how many hours out of the 6 to 8 would you say are spent doing the TV recliner test?
What's funny is that by the time I get to, I'm so angry at the RV, like for all the things I found. I'm like, "Oh, I don't anybody buy this," and I sit down in it, and that's when I have like my first. It's just towards the end of the day. It's like one of the very last things I do. I'm like, at the very end of the day, I'm like, oh, that's nice.
That's why you're late coming home, huh?
Yeah, like I sit down and I'm like, let me go through my report and like, so like I lose 15, 20 minutes. Like I'm just going to catch up, even though I'm in the last 10 minutes
Home stretch.
of the inspection. I'm like, I just need to take a break. And like I'll go through and like label some photos and stuff.
Well, now I know. Now when I call you, I'm like, what are you doing, Mike?
I'm at the TV. You're like, oh, okay, you're taking a break. But that's the level of detail. And the thing
Yeah.
is that no dealership or private seller is, I don't even think it's a question of them being willing to do it. They're not capable.
Right.
The economics aren't there. Because we talk all the time about like dealers, like, oh, they didn't do this or they didn't do that. It's like the economics of it aren't viable.
Right.
For a dealership to spend 8 hours with it, like not billable hours.
Right.
Right. Because they can't, whatever, every manufacturer has like a different PDI amount. It's like 2 hours or 4 hours for some. And if you're going to ask them to do it in 8, then that means 4 hours are unpayable for the dealership. So on the one hand, I get it that they're putting these RVs out and they don't really know their condition.
Right.
And then I'm the one who finds it. And as an RV business owner, there's like 2 ways that you can like branch that path, right? So you can be a de-escalative approach and be like, hey,
Like
yeah,
Officer Murphy.
exactly. Be like, hey, call the client and be like, hey, can I talk to the dealership about this water damage? And then you talk to them about it. But if you go in there and you act like you're the king duty,
Right.
you're going to upset everybody.
Right.
So it's about like a little bit of client relations there too, factors into it to just be diplomatic about your findings. Like as grandiose as we are on the internet about our findings, I never act like that
In person.
in person. That's why it's one of the reasons I don't identify the dealers, right? Is like I'm not going to dunk on them on the internet.
No, right.
That would be crazy to do.
But also, like, and I think there's a difference between some of the findings, like when you walk, like the one where you were clearly upset. If you find that video where you're clearly upset, the water was literally falling from the ceiling.
Right.
Like, you're telling me you didn't see that? You turn on the light, you would see that. Like
As soon as I walked in the door, I saw it.
Like, that's what I think the difference versus something like internal that they couldn't know unless they opened up the RV and did a deep dive. Like, and I think there's a difference.
Yeah,
Like, you know.
And what it comes down to for me is like the dealer attitude.
Yes.
Like if the dealer attitude is, hey, it's a used RV, we haven't really touched it yet. Let us know what your guy finds.
Like the one in Katy, right? Where you went for a ride.
Yeah.
And like that dealer was equally shocked as you were.
Right.
And instantly was like, this isn't safe. Please don't drive it
Right.
again. Let's like,
We'll leave it alone.
I get that.
They
She didn't
genuinely,
know.
they didn't know.
And that's okay. That happens. Like, just be open about it though.
Right, and that's like, and we see around here the dealers have become pretty cool, but like we see it all the time where dealerships, the best dealerships are the ones that say, cool, have an inspector, let us know what he finds.
Yeah.
Or they say, we don't think you need one, but if you want one, go for it.
We had the one that laughed at us.
We did.
And he said almost those exact words.
Yeah,
he was like, I don't know what you're going to find.
Right, and,
Like,
and
well,
that's okay. I get I understand it, but
Right.
it's the ones that like they play. Somebody sent me a screenshot the other day where they told a lie. The dealer was like, yeah, some RV inspector fell off the roof, and I've asked. There is no record of a RV inspector falling off a roof and
Yeah.
causing some kind of litigation. To my knowledge, it hasn't occurred. If it has, and you can prove it, I would love to know. But
Send it to us at
send it to us.
info@cozycamper.org.
But to my knowledge, it has never occurred. And then the other question always is, look, what if the RV inspector breaks something? I have a $2 million policy.
Yeah.
So if I fall through the roof, like our insurance, we've never used
Yeah.
it.
Like
but-
the guy today, I called the dealer today to set up an inspection, and he was like, all right, great, come on in. Do you have an insurance policy?
Yep.
Can you send it to us?
And we sent him all 90 pages of
and
that
he was
insurance.
like, thanks, we're good to go.
and,
Like,
and
so, it's fair. They can ask for it. I think it's reasonable.
It's a reasonable
I'd probably
request.
want that too.
Yeah.
But then, yeah.
And then just and it's the comparison I make is like we're selling our house right now. I know an inspector,
we?
not allegedly, but like an inspector is going to come and evaluate this house.
Yes.
And I have some concerns about things he might find. Right. There's some areas where either they weren't built well, or maybe I did a hasty repair or something like that. Like that I just haven't gotten around. Like that shelf over there, that I never have gotten around to fixing. But if I fix it,
Just
the project
aesthetic,
will be
though.
over. Yeah, but anyway, and so it's like, yeah, I know that we're going to lose some money when we sell the house.
Part of it, yeah.
I know that he's going to find some stuff. Either I'm going to fix it or adjust the price.
Yeah.
Cool. If you're a dealer, you know that too, right?
Yes.
Because if I go in there and I find it, or the customer goes in and maybe he or she's particularly skilled and they find it, it doesn't matter. It's going to affect the price. And so what we try to do is just be an impartial third party to go in there and make recommendations. That's it. We're not going to try and torpedo sales. We're going to be like, hey, the roof is fine or it's not.
And I think we should talk too. I get a lot of questions. Oh my gosh.
It is late.
I get a lot of questions when I'm on the phone saying like, what do I do with this report once I get it? Say like Mike finds something catastrophic. You put it, what's the category for when it's like a life?
Yeah.
Isn't it called like a life?
So there's really 4 categories of findings. There's life safety, which
That's
means
the one, and-
yeah, life safety is don't occupy this RV until you fix this because it threatens your life.
Right.
And that's stuff like electrical damage or propane leaks.
So you lay it out there in a way that makes the clients fully understand the level of urgency of what they find. So the clients then know, like, oh, okay, this isn't life-threatening. I can still make a deal on this RV and fix it later. Or this is like a non-negotiable, can't buy it. Yeah. Sorry.
It's like if the next category, for example, is major findings, and that's like stuff. Literally, the icon we use is a $sign because these are things that
costly,
that are expensive to fix, or maybe it's not expensive to fix, but it's something that isn't working, right? So like if like a slide doesn't go out, that might be a fuse that's out, but the slide isn't working,
right?
And because we don't know what is causing it, it's potentially a huge issue. And then minor issues are typically maintenance level or cosmetic.
Like if the TV doesn't work from the recliner.
Yeah. And then the lowest level is just like noteworthy comments, right? Where it's like if somebody has removed all the decals from the outside, or if someone has, replaced the original manufacturer stairs and you might put a note in like, hey, I can see that this has been replaced. But yeah, you're right. So that like breaks it down, and it's like, all right, what do you do with it? Well, you figure out what's important to you in that report, and you either ask the seller to fix it, or you get a price adjustment, or maybe they don't do anything and then you fix it.
And do they have to show the dealer the report?
No.
They don't have to show anyone?
They don't have to show anyone.
It's just for them?
It's just for them.
Will you send it to the dealer?
No.
No.
We won't send it to the dealer because it's the property of the client. I have done it at client request before, but I kind of hate doing that, so I really resist it. And the other thing is I'm like, hey, don't send the whole report to the dealer. Just, you can make a list. And you can use our software to make a list because it's brutal to send, like, and sellers have called me and been like, I don't know what to do with this.
It's a massive report.
Yeah, it's 100 pages long. And like for the owner, because they can keep that then, and like, oh, hey, I need the serial number for my fridge because I have a warranty claim. Let me go through this report and find it.
Yeah.
But, for the dealer or seller, they don't really need that much info. Just like, what do you want me to do? And so our software you can make a list.
Yeah.
And it'll just generate like a punch list with pictures.
It's funny you should say ours was 100 pages because we had that customer call us like a couple weeks ago, and she couldn't remember if she used you or somebody else, but she knew a while back that she had gotten an inspection, and she was like, oh, the report was great. It was like 11 pages. And as soon as she said that, I was like, well, that's not Mike, because Mike's is not 11 pages.
No. My summary is usually longer than 11 pages.
Yeah. So I just thought that was funny because I was like, no, Mike is known for his very long, thorough reports, and you can you don't have to read it all. No. Like you can go just to the life critical, whatever.
And it's summarized the first like couple of pages. Yeah. Like, here's this, and then if you want to get into the detail, you can go into the report and find all
and see
of this.
The pictures, right? You also do pictures and
there's
labels, and I see you with the computer, and I'm like, I see you circling things, and
if I'm saying a thing is something in the report, there's a picture of it, or video, or
with
audio
a caption
recording
too,
with a caption
right?
that explains what it is.
It's so thorough,
right? And that's the thing is, like, so many people, there are Facebook groups about people who feel they got hosed on deals, and I'm in them. And I'll be like, hey, did you get an inspection? No. Did you get an inspection? No. Did you get an inspection? No. And it's like, okay, cool. Why didn't you get an inspection? I didn't know it was a thing. Wasn't offered to me. Didn't know it was real. If I would have done it, I would have avoided this and that. Because particularly with used RVs, they're sold as is, which means the seller has no responsibility to fix it. It's on you, the client, to do your due diligence. That's hard.
It is.
And
good job.
thank you. And you get this RV figured out. The same way it's outside of the seller's disclosure when you're buying a house. It's really on the responsibility of the buyer to do their due diligence. That's why the buyer pays for the inspector. And we'll talk about that too here in a minute. But all that it's designed to do is part of our little pyramid of worry-free camping, right? Is we want to get out ahead of problems. So if you can buy an RV and at least you know what's wrong with the thing or what's right, then you're not stressed about it. You're not worried that the first time you take it out, it's going to leak. And a question I get a lot is, what guarantee is there that you found everything,
Yes, we did just get that question too. Is like, what happens if you don't?
Right. And I see it online. Like this is where I was going with TikTok earlier, is like people are like, there's no guarantee and there needs to be a warranty if you go out and fix it. I don't know why that was my voice.
Yeah, I like that accent.
Well, you want to? Okay, so, but like the same is true, and this is, if we had a home inspector sit here with us, they would have the exact same answer.
Right.
And it's like, no, what we're doing is we're documenting things as they are right now. So if the air conditioner works right now, we're going to say that it works right now. If we look at the air conditioner and it works right now, but like maybe the fan is loud or it's not cooling as well as it should. We'll write that up too. And we'll be able to prove that it does that thing. If the air conditioner is fine and then it goes out 3 weeks later and someone calls me and I'm like, well, here's my video of the thing working and the test we did.
Right.
It was working at the time of inspection. Then there's no fault on the inspector. The same way that if a water heater in your house worked at the time of inspection and then 3 weeks later went out, well, the inspector couldn't have known that. They're just verifying things that are functional right now. So that it doesn't do anything. But if an inspector were to be negligent and miss something, that's a different conversation altogether. And so to give you kind of like a story, I inspected this motorhome. The generator worked. I took video of the generator working. Like 6 months later, the client called me and was like, I don't think you inspected the generator. It doesn't work. And that's my anxiety button.
Yeah.
So I stopped what I was doing, got out the external hard drive from that era, plugged it in, looked it up, produced the video and what I do is I take a wide shot and then I zoom in on the serial number while the thing's running, and then I come back out to show that I'm like, here's the video of your generator running. And that ended that conversation.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what's happened to it since then, right? Maybe you didn't change the oil. Maybe you ran it for 500 hours. I don't know what happened over these 6 months. What I do know is that when you bought it,
it worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
And what you've done to it since then, I couldn't.
So it's also like a paper trail. It's a track record, too, in a way.
Right. Inspectors, there's literally, from the software, there's a CYA section, cover your ass. And you're supposed to put your photos in there so that if somebody was like, hey, this wall was delaminated when you inspected it, you can be like, nope, here's the photo where it wasn't delaminated. I did, however, call out a bunch of areas on the roof that had bad sealant. And maybe that's why it's now delaminated. So we have never had a verifiable claim where somebody was like, hey, you were negligent. And you missed this. We do have errors and omission insurance, so that if there were some allegation and I couldn't prove, our innocence, so to speak, there's a claim there.
And I think it's part of why you shop around for an inspector, because we've had this conversation and we'll have it time and time again. Not all inspectors are created equal. We would like to get to a place where where everyone is held to the same standard, but that's not how it works right now.
No, and that's we're going to talk about, like, kind of weaknesses of the RV inspection service, and the big weakness is that everyone is. Well, I think I will die on this hill that it's a valuable service. Most of the inspectors are very new at their jobs.
As you said, it's not been around for a long time.
It's only been around for a couple of years. And most inspectors are very new at their jobs. And how do I want to say this? Most inspectors are in a season of life where confidence is not an issue. And I am not in that season of life. We are in the season before that. So, and so I think what I hear from dealers all the time is somebody will come on the lot and not know what they're doing, not ask for help, and then break something or be wrong in their report, right? Because they don't know any better and they didn't ask for help.
Right, and they won't admit it or resolve it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As Mr. Data said, the beginning of wisdom is I don't know. So if you don't know something genuinely, and this happens to me with really old motorhomes, before I do an inspection, I go into the manuals. Some of the old modern motorhomes, typically there's a leveling system. You don't really need to do anything to it. But on the old ones, you'd have to dump the air out of the bags manually, and then you'd have to release. And now most of the computers will kind of do it themselves. But I remember one time I went in, and you don't need to be a technician to do it. You just have to does it work?
Right.
And I had a good relationship with the shop manager, and I was like, hey, this thing was built when I was in junior high. I was like, I see everything else. I'm like, can you, and I'm pretty sure I know how to do this. Can you please just walk me through how to do this?
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, yeah, you got to dump the air, and then you come over here and turn this on. And then when you're done, you refill the air. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. So I asked for help.
Yeah.
And in the scope of an inspection, you don't need to get into the weeds of how the thing works. Does it work or does it not? And did you operate it? All you need to know is how to operate it correctly. You don't need to get into
and then whether
the weeds.
it worked
whether
when
it
you
did
it that way.
exactly. and that's it. And so, hey, like a lot of these things, somebody sent us a complaint where they wrote up a bunch of things they said were wrong, and like I read it and I was like, no, it's just operator error. Like that inspector didn't know what he was doing. That is the weakness.
Yeah.
So what I encourage people to do is we can't be everywhere. There's other good inspectors out there.
Absolutely.
There's, I think there's 4 master inspectors now spread across the country. And it's like, all right, so find an inspector that has these things. Find an inspector that has multiple positive reviews over a period of time. Not 3 reviews, 10 or more reviews would be my metric. And they're 5 stars and they describe clearly what this person did. Have that. When you talk to this person, they should sound like they're excited to come do your inspection. They should sound professional, and they should have contracts and inspection points that govern everything they're doing, right? So like even before you even go to sign it, just like, hey, do you have a contract for me to?
Yeah.
I mean, look, yeah, here it is. This is what is governed and what isn't. That way we know what the relationship is.
Everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. And I think that just those couple of things go a long way. And the other thing is what training have they done besides the inspector certification? Like you can look at ours, and we've gone to Lippert and we've gone to Dometic, and I'm doing Aquahot right now, and it's okay. This person has done something beyond their, beyond the minimum required. Because NRVIA certification, that's the National RV Inspectors Association, their training is great, but it's the entry level step. It's the stuff that comes after it that I think is important. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with hiring a new inspector. I was a new inspector at one time. I think you should know that you're hiring a new inspector and have realistic expectations of that new inspector.
The price should reflect
that. The price should reflect that they're new, right? They should be forward. Like, yeah, I went to school 2 months ago. I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm doing 60% off of what I would like to charge. We did inspections for free on rental RVs just to get reps in, right? And then I had somebody look over and give me feedback. And I think that should be a thing, because currently there is no mandatory like field training process for new inspectors. Like you go to the training and then you're cut loose with everybody else. And that may change one day, but that is the current status of the inspection industry. So you do, as a consumer, you do have to do a little homework. And so when people call me, when they call us, and they're like, oh, why should I choose Cozy Camper? Like, I love it when they call me cold and they don't know who we are. And I'm like, okay, so listen, there's other great inspectors in town. I had breakfast with a bunch of them today, right?
Yes.
There's other great inspectors in town. Here's why you choose Cozy Camper, right? Because you can see our customer reviews. One, I'll show you the paperwork that we're talking about. My training is visible. And if you want to know about my inspection product, you can just go on our social media and see our portfolio.
It right there, yeah.
Like, you can see all the RVs that we've
That is the cool part
before.
of our social media, is that it's all out there for you to see. Like, I mean, if you're on the fence about getting an inspection, just watch a handful of our reels, and that should solidify your decision.
And not that everyone needs to be like a little micro influencer,
no,
which is the technical term for what our follower status is. It's so goofy, but not that everyone needs to do it. But like, I think that having a social media presence is a good reflection of like, oh yeah, this guy, maybe he only has 100 followers, but he's posting on there 3 times a week with what he's inspecting. I can see. Okay, yeah, he did a motorhome this week. He did a fifth wheel. Like, oh, look, he's got 10 Google reviews. Okay, that means they're probably he or she. I was criticized for not pointing. There are tons of female inspectors. I was criticized for that. I always use he, but Sparkle RV Services in Missouri, right? So, but she always shares our video, so I'll give her a little plug. But stuff like that just goes a long way, right? Because you can see that this person is invested.
For sure.
In their business, and you can see their portfolio. So I think that's important to tease all those things out before you hire an inspector.
Right.
So, the first test is go to the dealer. Can I get an inspection? I wouldn't even buy from a dealer if the answer wasn't, sure, go ahead and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Can I get an inspection?
And thankfully, it seems like even in the short time we've been in business, I mean, some of it is the rapport you've built with the dealers, but also it seems like the resistance is not quite what it was a couple years ago.
It's gotten easier.
Yeah, right? Like even in my short time, only one so far. And he didn't even say no. He just was kind of a jerk.
No, he actually turned out to be pretty cool.
Okay, so he turned a corner.
Yeah,
But either way, no one's told me no yet, and I've
Right.
called several different dealers all across. You've gone everywhere. Katie, Houston.
Nacogdoches, Lubbock, right? Like we've gone all over.
Gone, yeah.
Phoenix,
Waco,
Arizona, right?
yeah. And
And-
no one said no. The only, like I just said, was kind of a little bit of a rude attitude, but like,
Yeah, it's
but no one said no. So that's, I mean, it's
yeah. Someone described me when they hired us. They were like, "Hey, yeah, they knew who you were, and they were nervous about having," this is a quote, "a fearsome inspector from the internet come on their lot." And I was like, "Oh, it's not that way."
oh my gosh,
Like,
no.
it's not that way. But yeah, it's getting easier.
And it hopefully will keep getting easier as we get more awareness around it and talk more about it. And
I think it's just such a new thing, and it's kind of disruptive in an industry that doesn't really react well to change.
Yeah.
Like the RV industry, if there is an industry that their slogan could be "That's the way we've always done it," it's the RV industry.
Yeah.
You know, like just trying to get these guys to take the VCRs out of, they still make them with DVD players.
Yeah.
Like, Target doesn't even sell DVDs anymore. So, so yeah, it's just
Change is hard. Change is
it's
scary.
very hard. The RV industry is a huge ship with a teeny itty bitty rudder, and like we're like cranking on that rudder trying to get it to turn. But I think
Yeah.
it is better. I think it's a valuable service, and I think 5 years from now, I would like to see. My vision has always been, I'd like 50 to 75% of all RV purchases to have an inspection tied with it. And then the demand for RV inspectors would be great. It'd be a mainstream thing. Maybe we get to a place where we're doing 2 a day, right? Where we're so efficient. We figured out the bumps and we're doing 2 a day, and it's a whole industry within an industry. I would like to see better. And I had the same objection when I was a cop. I would love to see some inspectors that have bad attitudes self-select and find new careers.
Yes.
And I would like to find people that are resistant to learning and change in this industry bail. And I would like to see better ongoing training
Yes.
for RV inspectors.
More options too.
Yeah, because
like,
you do there is a requirement to do ongoing training for us, but like you can. What training is because there's so little training out there, like you can do like online webinars, and that's part of the training, and I do that, but I don't really get anything out of it.
Right.
So like
In-person
right,
training.
I've paid to go to in-person trainings just because they're better to actually go on hands-on, and I would like to see better ongoing training
Yeah.
and standards over time. But the association is so young and it's so new, and to be totally transparent, it's so small. It's hard to do that right now.
Right.
But if we were inspecting 500,000 RVs a year, that would be.
I think we can get there though. It starts with people like us. This is our goal. Our goal is to spread awareness, not just to the, clients, but also to other inspectors.
Right. And we were talking about that. We had the inspector's breakfast this morning. I was talking about that there, where I'm like, hey, do I want to advertise Cozy Camper? 100%. I'm also trying to increase the visibility
Yes.
of the service just broadly.
Right.
And
Not just you.
not just me. And
Everybody.
I was telling them, I was like, hey, I'm right now advertising for your businesses for free. Because I'm saying like, hey, yeah, fine, go to the locator, hire an inspector, do these things. I'm like, what am I going to ask for them? Nothing, right?
Right.
But I'm like, if we can just raise awareness of the service, then
Benefits everybody.
everybody wins. I was going to make a quote the president, but he's having a rough week, so I won't do that.
Mike.
It benefits everyone. Hurts nobody, right? And so so the inspectors are happy because they're busy. The clients are happy because they're buying RVs. If I'm a dealer, I'd be like, yeah, have your inspector come in. And then if the inspector missed anything and the client was upset, I would throw that inspector under the bus
So fast. Yeah.
And then honestly, if they know there's more scrutiny, maybe the dealership or the industry does a better job producing
I was just going to
these
say,
things.
maybe the long-term benefit is that stronger, better RVs are being produced. Like, because if we talk about it, that's the root. That's where it all kind of starts.
Right, and
So-
it's the mismanagement of expectations. If dealers were just forward, looks like it's going to storm. If dealerships were just forward, like, hey, yeah, we don't really know what shape this thing is in.
Yeah.
It would go, but they lie. And they're like, oh, this thing is so great. You're going to love it.
Right.
And it's like
Yeah.
we were at a dealership recently, and like they were telling me all about the RV, and I was like, I know more than you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, don't. And then as soon as we said that, he's like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, I'll back down. And then he answered he found the things I didn't know. And I was just like, hey, can you answer these?
And he said, absolutely. Let me go find
called,
out.
He called the manufacturer and got the answers. Like, he did it while we were there.
Yeah.
He called his guy at the manufacturer and got the answers we wanted. Be that guy that
Yeah.
doesn't know the answer. That's
But
huge.
finds them.
Right. And we were talking, remember when we were talking to Not the Titans? And,
Not the Titans.
she was talking about how she interviewed like 20 different dealers to find the right one.
15.
Trying to give her some credit. But it was like, remember she was like, one of the questions was like, hey, do you know about X, Y, and Z? And if somebody bluffed their way through a conversation, just hang the phone up, right? We're done dealing with that dealer. If the answer was yes and they were right, that's awesome. But if the answer was, I don't know, let me find out, that's fine too.
That's fine too, yeah. You don't have to know everything.
I don't know every single thing about RVs. I know a lot, but I don't know every single thing.
Yeah.
I don't even know every single thing about you, right? I know a lot.
But not everything.
You probably know more about me.
I do know a lot about you. Not everything.
But that's the long and short of it.
Yeah.
And we do technician stuff too. Something that I think is an important distinction is we can't be your inspector and your technician. We can't tell you the air conditioner is broken and then offer to fix it.
Right.
Because
conflict of interest.
It's a conflict of interest. And that's, I think, something that the NRVIA does. Okay, we're back. We had a little technical drama. Something the NRVIA does really well is separate the two. So you can be a technician or you can be an inspector. We do both. We do both services, but not for the same customer. And truth be told, I would love to get out of the RV technician business, but there's just not enough
inspections.
RV inspections.
Yeah.
So someday we'll get there, but not this day.
That's okay. For now, we take what we can get.
That's right. So what is coming up for us in our business over the next week? We're busy again.
Yeah, quite a bit of repairs. I just sound kind of funny.
Yeah. I turned you low. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of repairs coming up, and that have been on the schedule for a long time.
Yeah. Talk about failures. We have one client. He's got an air conditioner problem. We had to go there twice to fix it, and then on the third visit,
Was supposed to be the
it was
final
supposed to be
visit.
the final visit, and his the fan blade broke.
Yeah.
While I was taking it out, so now we're gonna go back to that. I'm excited to have that one be done.
I think he's excited for that one to be
Yeah.
done.
We told him though, like honestly, wasn't the best choice to try and fix this air conditioner.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost him more in the long run than to just replace it, but
We get it. It's hard.
they're expensive, so I get it. But
yeah.
we'll
But
get
yeah.
through that. That was kind of a low point
Yeah.
for me. Is like,
Oh, I forgot about that. That was a downer that day.
Yeah,
Just frustrating.
it
You
is
want
frustrating.
to solve the problems for the customers, and then
yeah,
when you can't, it's really hard.
it's a bummer. So, but we also have a bunch of inspections
Yeah.
coming up. We're starting to book into
This
next
week is full of inspections and only one morning of repairs.
That's right.
It. So it's funny how it changes from week to week, but
Totally different. And then I guess this is a place where we close out for people that are in the Phoenix area. What are the dates we're going to be in Phoenix?
way to put me on the spot.
Get your phone out right now.
We will be in the Phoenix area.
So I'm going to Phoenix over a long weekend. Somebody is having me go out there to do an inspection on an RV. So we have limited availability for RV inspections. Theoretically, we can do 2 more.
Yes,
that
August
weekend.
8th through 10th.
August 8th through 10th. So one of those days is already claimed, but we have availability on the other 2 do inspections. So if you're a Phoenix area listener,
Or in the surrounding areas, you can
Phoenix,
drive a
Mesa,
little.
I don't know what's around there, but we have a rental car.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to get it done, but let's get you on the schedule sooner rather than later. Elizabeth, thank you for being here. Everybody else, thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe to our channel, like, and share this video.
See you next time.
See you then.